All right. Welcome to the virtual brown bag. So, just a reminder on how this works. There are two links. One is for participants. One is for anyone who wants to participate, ask questions live, show something off, and one is just for people who want to watch. You can get the participant link by joining the Slack, and you can invite yourself to the Slack via our website, virtualbrownbag.com. Just a reminder, everything is recorded and streamed live, so please don't share anything that would get you in trouble with your employer. Um, and so, welcome.
Hey,
Uh, hey, I have been in rural Arkansas for pretty much since last Tuesday, since midday last Wednesday. So I have done I didn't even bring a computer. I didn't bring an iPad. My phone had no charge for most of that time.
so you had a great weekend.
Yeah, yeah, I've done none of this stuff.
All right, well, I can share some stuff that I have. I was helping a friend out today, and I can talk a little bit about the experience. So, he had some questions about manipulating and working with PDFs. And so the last gig I had, we're doing some PDF generation and filling out. And so we're doing some pretty advanced PDF stuff. I'm sure there's people who've done way more advanced stuff than what we were doing, but it was pretty awesome things we're doing. So like it would, we would scan a PDF and then they'd map fields onto it, and then they would answer the fields in a normal like web page form, and then we would take their answers and put it back into the PDF and print it out. So it was kind of a Rube Goldberg machine to get all the stuff set up, because you would think that it's pretty easy to open a PDF and just add stuff to it, but it wasn't. So we ended up using the Ruby library Prawn, but for this particular scenario, he needed to use here. I'll share that. And we use Prawn for some reason. There was a feature that it scaled the font and the text automatically for you, and so that was pretty helpful. But also, the person who's the main or the lead for this feature was way more comfortable in Ruby versus Node. So it was sort of like, okay, we'll just use Ruby, and we called out to the command line. So it didn't really matter as well, because it was a Phoenix app and Elixir calling out the something. And so it was like, Node, Ruby, who cares? Like, we're calling out to some other service. But I did the MVP in Node, and I used PDFKit, and that worked well. And so for this scenario where they already have their main app is written in Node, I recommend to take a look at this. And so you can obviously do things that you expect to be able to draw things, write stuff out. I think the complication was for him, and I couldn't remember. I thought we could read something, a PDF, and then edit it, but I wasn't completely sure. But he made it seem like he couldn't do that. But for our scenario, I know what we ended up doing was we had the original PDF, and then we would generate a completely new PDF with the data information on it, and then we wanted to merge them together, and we'd use the command line tool from PDFTK, and they have a command line called multistamp, and it will merge the two together.
Now, did you pay the licensing fee on PDFTK?
I don't know what they did.
Because I have also used PDFTK on a project, which is weird because he put this out and he's like, whatever. This actually seems to have gotten some updates, but yeah, because it's like pure command line tool, and he's like, I guess there's some. Just go ahead and figure out the command line options. When you do, and it's super powerful, but
right.
And I remember I was using it on one project, and like for a long time I was like, please guys, get a license for this, we're finally going to really release. I was like, you really need to get a license to it. And like, oh, how much is it? Like $25. It's nothing. Just get a license.
I'm pretty sure we did, but like I said, I wasn't the
Yeah.
lead on it. I was just like,
Yeah.
hey, can we do this? Because yeah, and yeah, it worked out great. And the multi-stamp is something that's actually kind of hidden inside here, and it's sort of not. We used it, but I don't think it was really designed for that. So the stamp down here is really just like it overlays a PDF page on top, and really like I think just so like you could put, you know how it's like you want to put like demo or like in the background or a watermark or whatever. That's what I think stamp was really for. Is that you can like, oh hey, we can put this watermark on all the PDFs, done. And then multi-stamp was like, oh, you can change which ones you want, and we sort of hijacked that operation to stamp PDFs on top of each other. And it took there's little oddities because you have to have the same number of pages and stuff, but it worked. And at the end of the day, that was important. So there, that's our, and you think, oh, that's not that big of a deal. This took a significant amount of research and hacking to figure out how to get this thing to work. Because right, you think, oh, I'm just editing this PDF, it should be easy, and it's like, nope.
Yeah, yeah, and I've had some time, working with PDF, spent some time with it. Not fortunately a huge amount of time of editing directly, but like like putting pages together. One of the things that at this point, my general opinion on how to do it easiest is to just generate an HTML and tell users to use their built-in browser's print to PDF function. It is, and if that's not enough, like I have had like one project in the last 3 years we're like, no, we really need a download PDF function. Can't have users print and then save. Like, that's too many button clicks. In that case, just pointing Phantom.js at that same exact site and having it print totally works just fine. The only thing that's not going to do is like you're not going to be able to take input as PDF unless you want to run like OCR. So these libraries, PDFkin and PDF Sharp and .NET and so on, are still very useful if you need to take input from PDFs. But otherwise, I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to generate PDFs at all. HTML to PDF is basically a solved problem at this point. There's really nice media queries and everything for it.
Yeah, if I was continuing this, if I was lead, one of the spikes I was going to go try doing was, can I just take the PDF and convert it to, because I know I could do the HTML and I think I could do it like completely SVG, and it's like, then do everything I need to do in SVG and in HTML, and then convert that back to a PDF, because it just feels like the PDF stuff is a lot of black box complexity versus like, what you get into with SVG and whatever.
Yeah, one thing that I did find out is there were some edge cases when using Phantom, pointing it at a file, an HTML file which had SVGs in them, which had embedded HTML inside the SVGs. Every once in a while, it would screw up. And it's in the areas where it would screw up, like you'd go and report it on the Phantom page, and it'd be like, yeah, we know about this. Nobody understands how this part of the renderer works. We don't know how to fix it. Oh man! Like, that's the best response I could ever get out of them. And they updated to version 2 of Phantom, and it was much better in many regards. But then, like, all the options I was using for like a lot of this printing stuff was like, they gained some of them like started the options gained the exact inverse meaning. The version 2 upgrade, they just started doing the exact opposite. Like, oh man, you guys are killing me.
Yeah, you're like, why is all my stuff broken?
Yeah. And broken in such a weird and specific way. But yeah, but short of that, short of that scenario where you absolutely must generate PDF, and I've even experimented this, like, all right, what can we have an HTML document that is hundreds of pages long, and telling people to use their browser's print to PDF functionality for that. It's not a problem. It takes virtually no time in my experiments with that. So like
Okay.
that is my current line for anyone that wants PDF documents. Like I'll dump out a big HTML page, which gives you a lot of options, and like your clients can print to PDF, sure, but they could print to something else as well, and that way we don't have to deal with it. It gets much easier, and most clients bite at that right away.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I can't remember the last time I had where it was like generating a PDF just as like a report. Well, I guess I had one where you did, and that yeah, the web page route is the best way to go. You sort of make your own CSS with that, and you have your own setup, and then just test it. It's almost like a testing a different browser. Be like, hey, what does it look like when you print this as a PDF?
And if you do go the Phantom JS route, then you don't even have to do that because it's just WebKit. Um, so
Right,
that
but
should
that
be
is a
good.
that's additional. Well, I guess if it's really important.
That is, yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I remember we had to do was we there was some very specific reason why we could only display one page at a time of the actual like we couldn't display all the pages separated by line breaks, so you display one page at a time. So you have to have Phantom PDF fire off, Phantom JS fire off parallel requests to every single one of the pages, download them, print them off to PDF, then pass it through PDFTK to just concatenate them. And PDFTK cannot concatenate more than 26 pages at a time, so you have to have like this recursive tree algorithm that goes and rolls everything up.
Good times, yeah.
Yeah,
That ties exactly with my friend. We were talking. The lead who was doing the PDF stuff. I was talking to him earlier. He just texted me back about some stuff. He explained things. And he's like, "Did you tell your friend to buckle up?" And you were talking about that. I was like, "Yep, that's that's what you have to do. You end up with all these weird things, and you
yeah.
finally get it to work." That was a hard
Well,
thing to explain to the client too, and stuff about like it's like because it's like, are we done? I'm like, man, this is the type of thing that like you're never really done.
yeah.
Like you're always gonna find something and need to change something. So it's important that like
Mhm.
you don't just rush it out. Like you take
Yeah.
the time to do it right and think about all these other scenarios.
Or alternately, have a good fallback, as like just show it in your browser and print from there. 'Cause,
Uh, well,
yeah,
ours was a core business feature. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like you had like that was the what the app did.
Mhm.
Well, the initial MVP is like you can fill out a web page and it prints out PDF.
Oh, fun. Yeah, because it's interesting. The PDFTK, if I remember correctly, the guy like kind of wrote it as a way of teaching other people about PDF. He wasn't like planning to release it as a product. And everyone's just like, we want to use that product instead. Um, so, all right,
And he's super rich around, right? Probably not.
I doubt. Yeah, $25 at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. PDF times. Seth,
Okay.
you ever have PDF headaches, issues? Nah,
hmm
nah, he's not. He's muted. Whatever.
So I have one thing I want to get your opinion, George. I'm still working on this is very early stage and me just taking notes and stuff. But working to create like a a crash course online for some people. And the idea is people with little to no programming experience can get here and within 3 hours of just hacking around on their online content, they can learn some Rubies. And they're looking for some interaction or something that's I would call it has some sex appeal versus like just, you know, yeah, I could read a file and we could process transactions, but that's not that awesome. And so like I've been playing around trying to figure out a good little project or whatever. So like I could use some input on things that you think you've used in the past or some things you've seen that are pretty interesting. Um,
Um, okay. So this is just like what sort of stuff to build.
Yeah, like potential things you could build. Like one thing that they have played around with is I think the JavaScript they're experimenting doing something like Mad Libs. So I put here like Mad Libs. Like I guess they'd have some text and then like you fill in some words and it'll stick those words in it and just generate out the output. So it's kind of like it's a fun thing. You get some interaction and but they learn some stuff along the way. The goal isn't so I guess here the objective isn't to teach anything in particular or exposure. So it's not like you have to be. I need to teach them arrays and teach them everything about arrays. Like it's just, as the process, they're going to might see array, you might talk a little bit about it, but your goal is not that they walk away being ready to do anything. Looks like you're muted, George, if you're talking.
I am muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so your objective is missing who it's targeted at. So you said people with little no programming experience or little no Ruby experience.
Different thing. Programming experience, period.
Okay, so what is the point of exposing them to Ruby?
So for them, that like you have a school there at New Orleans. They're like a school, and so right now these schools kind of helps even different other schools. They have like little crash courses, little meetups that they have, and it's a marketing thing. Like come join our school. Here you will learn this stuff. So this is to expose them to this, and right now they'll do like say a crash course thing, and then people are like, hey, yeah, I really like this, super interesting. Where can I learn more? And they have to send them to other sites, and so they don't want to send them to other sites. They would rather send them to their own site. And in addition to that, this is a permanent resource that they can point to when there isn't a crash course coming up in the local area.
Okay, so you as a marketing thing, so you want to kind of hook people into programming, or you want to hook people into programming with Ruby? I'm saying.
Right. Correct. Yeah. That's why the appeal, the sex appeal needs to be have something where it's like, oh, that was fun and interesting and rewarding, a good feedback loop. And they go, I would like to learn more.
So a couple things that kind of come up with that made me think about it. So if you're saying like, okay, I want them to learn more and seek out more places where they can learn, well, I think in that case that some of the stuff you have written down is good, and we can kind of discuss that. The other thing, but if you specifically want them to spend some time learning on this, now what that makes me think of is kind of a lot of the stuff that I first started programming on, which is Nibbler and that Gorilla game in QBasic. And in that case, I'm thinking I would think something a little more involved, where you have a significant chunk of it written, take them through how to write a feature, add a feature to it, but then because you have a lot of it written, then they can still continue playing it with it further and, play around with, changing the color of the gorillas or getting the trajectories differently and stuff like that.
Right. I was thinking a similar thing because one of the things I learned with C++ was there's like a robot program, and like what you're doing is writing C to get the robot to do stuff for you.
Right, but so specifically the thing I'm saying though is you don't write the whole game. You have a significant chunk.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. So the other thing that I do think that, especially if you're targeting early on, you're not looking to teach like command line skills or debugging skills or something like that, I would probably strike Hangman, stuff like Hangman or Towers of Hanoi. I really, really, really like Hangman. I have a whole thing that I do with teaching Hangman in JavaScript as just teaching programming from the console. I don't think that's appropriate for what you're saying because it needs to be visual. It needs to have a strong visual component. And Hangman intrinsically doesn't, and if you are going to add it, it's kind of a tacked-on thing. So I don't know, is there a processing hook into into Ruby.
What do you mean processing hook when you say that?
Um, so I don't like so processing is that programming language that is makes it very easy to draw. Like there's a command called line, there's a command called
I
rectangle.
looked and I couldn't find one, but that's what I did. What I did discover is that's why I have this SketchUp. I've never even heard of it before, but it was pretty interesting that
Mhm.
like it's an app, and
Whereas
then
Ashkenaz has a Ruby processing thing, but uh,
and then you
oh,
can draw stuff here, and it has like a menu, and then
yeah,
you end up drawing some
yeah.
3D things. But like, I, my hesitation with using something like this is I was like, this is a point of failure, like that I'm not completely comfortable with. You know, like they have to get SketchUp Pro set up. I don't know how easy that's install,
Mhm.
and I don't know because it's a big so the other thing is it's a big jump or detour to be like, hey, let's do Ruby doing this desktop app and drawing 3D things, and then it's gonna be like, and now we're just gonna do nothing but Rails. You know, like
Well, yeah. But is that where you're going to take them to Rails? Are you going to take them to Rails eventually?
yeah, their courses that they're doing is just there's no Ruby without Rails in their courses.
Um, hmm. So in that case, like, there's probably not a ton of reason to go away from web. I don't know. See, I really, really like the UI stuff. Like, okay, how about this? Is there a logo in Ruby?
Oh, like
Oh,
logo, like the turtle drawing logo,
yeah,
or
yeah.
I don't know.
See, something called Kame, Japanese for turtles, implementation of a logo programming language built on Ruby. But the question being, is that actually you don't want the logo programming language? You want something similar. Uh,
Yeah, I take a so one thing the visual, the
mhm,
other part with that is I'm trying to think what was it. So I tried doing some console stuff like to draw some things because that's what
mhm,
I was looking for too. Because I was like, man, if you could just even drawing a square, because I'm with you.
mhm,
Like at this early stage, I think taking input from people and drawing something on a screen. I remember that being some of the coolest stuff.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, I coded this card line game, and they have a Hangman example that one of my things I looked at. I was like, I like Hangman. I think it looks good. Like,
Yeah.
but uh, I, like it is something where you're like, hey, I don't know. I enjoyed it when I was first learning, and so I guess other people decide like when I first learned programming. Man, when I could ask myself a question, answer it, and then change it that changes the results or whatever, I thought that was awesome. Like,
That
but
was good, but I don't know if that's a good first hook. You're talking about
yeah,
like
but yeah, but
at the time you got to Hangman, you would not. I bet you wouldn't weren't really no programming experience.
well,
You
also
were,
I think it's timeline and days. Like, so
yeah,
yes, that was really awesome for me to learn in '94. Like that's
yeah,
they have. I think the expectations are a lot higher and the capability of what you can do. I mean, like my first computer program was Apple IIe coding basic line by line. So yeah, so getting it to act and do something was really cool. But now, like, I think the expectation is a lot higher, and so I sort of want to meet that. And teaching JavaScript is like when I'm trying to teach someone programming, I don't even teach them programming at first. I teach them HTML and CSS.
right. So okay, so how about this then? Another thought. You have Mazement navigation there. M- how about maze generation?
Mm-hmm.
That is just one of my favorite algorithms in general. It's an interesting enough algorithm. Like, do you know how the algorithm works basically?
No, I've never done maze generation. I've done.
So basically, kind of want to like open up my camera. I don't have a whiteboard here, also show it.
There's
Um,
online whiteboards, dude. There's like 50
oh,
million of them.
what's an online whiteboard?
I don't know. Everyone I talk to that has one, they have their own favorites.
I don't. I haven't had one since Dabbleboard went under. People, what's an online whiteboard?
Do they even have one in the Google chat?
Um,
Add apps. Draw on each other. You can draw on my face. How about that?
oh,
Uh,
all right.
yeah.
Okay, here's one. Yeah, man. After Dabbleboard went under, it's been sad. All right. Here we go. So you can see my screen right now.
Yeah, it's a white.
Okay. So let's see. What you do is you start out with a grid, and of course I don't have. Can I not undo? That sucks. Oh no! Oh no!
Your grid is looking awesome.
Hold on. And of course there is no undo. Wait, hold on. Is there? Ooh. Yeah, let's go. I'll do this with my finger. Sucks.
You have GIMP over there. Just do it with GIMP. We're watching your screen. We don't need a
I
whiteboard.
know. I've got. All right, so let's do that then. Fine. Uh, hold on. Let's open some new stuff with GIMP. All right.
The other part, and this other processing, is like teaching Ruby is like, okay, let's hack on some Ruby. What, you have Windows? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that.
Yeah, like
A
it's
lot of people have Windows still.
exactly. So, I don't know. Of that's why some of the predefined stuff might be okay, because I'm kind of leaning towards like if you had a predefined solution and a predefined Nitrous IO box that they could just bring in,
Or Cloud9.
Cloud9 or something like that. I think that
Yeah.
that would be a good solution, because then you don't have to worry about what the hell they have. They don't have to install anything. They just go and do it.
All right, I'm gonna just do this.
Yeah.
There you go. So just some line. So basically, you start out with a grid system. Oh, okay, whatever. That's cool. And you pick to start in a random location. So let's go ahead. See, we're starting there. Whoa, that was not what I wanted. I want pencil. I'm starting there. So you pick a random direction of the ones available, and you break down that wall. Let me see, how can I make that larger? Size, that's what I want. There we go. You break down that wall. So now you are in there. Oops. So now you're in that square. Okay, pick a random direction and break down that wall. Okay. All right. Pick a random direction and break down that wall. Pick a random direction and break down that wall. And now you're in that square. You go in there. And now basically there's no walls left. There's no walls that you can break down that would enter you into a square you haven't been in before.
Okay.
So you start backtracking. You go back to here. There's no walls anymore. You go back to here. Now there's a wall. So you break down that wall. 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 Okay, now you got to backtrack again. You go there. Let's say you go there. Oh wait, that wouldn't make sense. You go there. And now you can't go anywhere. You backtrack, and you end up backtracking all the way to beginning because there's no more walls to break down, and you've got a maze.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the maze generation algorithm. It's actually really, really fun to implement. It's one of the first ones that I end up implementing in like a ton of languages. And I think if you give them a structure for like something like here's a two-dimensional matrix or something like that, or some structure like, or actually, we give them a library, right? Yeah. Of like break where they just say which wall gets broken down, in which square and which side of the wall. And then from that library, your code can take and actually draw it, maybe even draw it in 3 dimensions or something like that, or at least in 2 dimensions. I think that would be sufficiently exciting for a segment of the population. Not everyone gets excited by algorithms, but it's kind of more people than you think. And that's pretty cool, and it's difficult enough to. It's not super easy to implement this because of the backtracking aspect. So you basically have to keep a stack of where you came from at any given time and remove stuff off the stack. Um, I find that has a good amount of complexity. So when I showed that to people previously, I would show it in Microsoft Touch Develop, which is where I put it together. I never like sat down and had anyone implement it from scratch, but I've shown it to people like maybe after about a week's worth of course, and have them be like, "Oh, that's cool," and have them try to put it together themselves. Stuff like that. And if there's some structures around it, like I said, like you're offering them structures where they don't have to figure out the math on how to draw lines or what it means to remove a wall when they're really thinking in terms when the actual images are just in terms of lines.
Yeah.
If you provide structures for that, I think that could be very powerful for them just to hook them in.
Okay.
At least for the type of person that likes playing around with algorithms. And then you can of course have them program a little maze navigation AI. That's always fun.
Yeah, that's yeah. If you did generation and you're right, abstract away some of the other stuff, then add a navigation if it seems like there's more time to fill.
Sure. Or if you want to go further, like
it's the same sort of algorithm idea though. You're like,
mm-hmm.
go, stop, pop, go back, and go, and like there's a stack you're manipulating.
No, well, really, I wouldn't think of a maze navigation isn't really that. Maze navigation is just keep your hand on the right of the wall and just move through, and always turn right whenever it's available. That's maze navigation. Or
right.
left. So there's no stack. You don't need a stack. I mean, unless you want to solve. If you trust that the maze has a way out from your location, and if you trust that and if it is like if you trust that the maze has a way out from your location, you don't need a stack at all. You only need to keep things on your right. Now, what I think. Yeah,
I'm trying to remember like because I haven't done it in a long time, but I thought I did stuff on the stack. Like you'd get to dead end, then you'd pop your position back out a couple of times. But maybe if you just kept on going.
Yeah, you just.
I don't know. I'd have to take a look.
Yeah, that's dang it, JB. That's the way out of a maze. You're gonna get lost in a maze, and you're not gonna know your way out.
I'll just die. I'll be like, Stack Overflow. I'll just sit there and be like, Stack Overflow.
No. But here's a neat thing you could do with that though.
Oh, I know why. Because you have to remember, like, it's recording the route. Like if you're recording the route out of the maze.
Yeah, but you still never have to pop. You're just pushing exactly where you went.
If you went down a path that was completely dead end.
Yeah. If you backtrack, I suppose. Yeah. But so there are some cool things you could do with that. I mean, if you have a little time, you could get into some fun genetic algorithm territory with that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Not necessarily, no, because if you think about it, like there's a couple, like you could if like solving maze navigation is fine, but you'd be like, all right, but what if we could solve it faster? So let's introduce a couple parameters, right? So like you don't always just keep your hand on the right hand side. You sometimes go the other direction or something like that. Well, if you have a couple parameters, like you could provide them with a couple things, because if you provide them with like let's say a genetic algorithm sort of structure, right? And you're like, here, now take your algorithm and pass it into these structures, and it's going to try to play with your parameters and figure it out. What you're going to, like, you're implicitly teaching them the concept of an API when you do that, because you're saying program your algorithm to this API because it has to take the parameters in this exact way, produce the output in this exact way, which I think is pretty powerful as well.
Yeah, I mean, so even with let's go back. Even with the maze navigation, the part of the maze navigation to me that I was viewing more than just the algorithm and stuff like that is tying it to real world something. And so to me, like some of the stuff I'm exploring is like this day and age is more readily, you have drones and robots, and so tying it into the idea like, okay, you're coding a robot. Back when I was learning to do that, it was sort of like, like it was just okay theoretical. But now, like, hey, someone could get a little Internet of Things type stuff, and this is a way they can code it. And so, like, teaching something you could tie into a real world is what I was looking for with that stuff. It'd be like, okay, like it wouldn't just be maze navigation is a higher level, but it'd be more things like, okay, you're coding the Pathfinder on Mars, like, and it needs to navigate through this rock canyon. How can you get through it without being
Yeah.
able to see it?
Except the problem is that none of that stuff does maze navigation algorithms.
Yeah, I know,
That's
but
all
that's not the
A-star.
point. It's not supposed to be real in terms of that. It's supposed to be real in terms of like tying it into like some sort of
Yeah.
physical world.
Well, but how much of a stretch is it really to tie it into something like A-star and do that instead? I mean, again, if you're providing them with an environment and stuff which is already has code built up, like you can do some neat complex stuff like that. Like it's not hard to teach someone A-star or the maze generation algorithm if they don't have to focus on all the other stuff. If you have an environment already set up for them which will help them with their spelling errors and so on, that's not that hard. But it's just when everything's together, that's when and when they have to innovate on themselves, that might be that's more difficult. But I don't know. I mean,
I thought about some sort of encrypt and decrypt sort of simple thing too. Like, like it'd be kind of like a secret password that you can generate and then someone else can decrypt it, but I don't know.
public care generation of large primes.
Yeah. I don't know, even like Pig Latin type thing.
Yeah.
Like, people translate it to and from.
But how does that relate to real life stuff?
I don't know. It's something they can sort of see or do.
Yeah. Okay, so let me add a couple things to your components of a good solution.
Mm-hmm.
Incremental. It has to
good.
Yeah, it has to be something they can make. They can make changes, see the results, and test the results
right
away. Presumably visual. So that was something like when I was designing this stuff, I always keep that in mind. Yeah, and especially like keep challenging them to explain it, what they did might be useful. So challenging them like at the end of each, like showing them how to do doc comments, and challenging them at the end of each section to write a doc comment explaining what happened. That could be kind of good. That's a simple enough assignment to create, and yeah, and something that could get some good feedback.
Yeah. Also, to me, as a domain or problem that that everyone is familiar with or comfortable with. I don't know how else to put that, but the idea like because I'm a big nerd that I tend to favor nerd things, and I'm like, this is going to be for a broader audience, so I can't do something like I generally like going Futurama references and stuff. And I'm like, that's not for everybody. So I make an inside joke about Dr. Zoidberg. No one's gonna get it. So.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe people will.
Yeah. So or like I'll do comic books a lot. I mean, so you'll know any project I have been part of if the authentication tests have the user as Tony Stark and their password is I am Iron Man. That's just, I was like, I do this all the time.
Yeah. I agree. Let's see. Yeah, I mean that sounds all good, but I also don't know if this leads into Rails very much too, where Rails is really a lot more about learning this big system and learning how to like tie bits of it together. But
so one thing they're talking about, like brainstormers ideas, previous versus there's- I'll get a better title for that. Uh, they were talking about reading from a CSV file, doing something from a database, objects, descriptors, and I was like, man, like,
Yeah.
the goal, that's what I was getting, is like, isn't to teach them, and so like it's, I'm with you that I was like, even the point I was like, you confirm my idea that like I think if we have something cool and we have some pre-built things, that's perfectly acceptable for this objective. They don't need to build everything from scratch. And a lot of times, like when they're writing the code, there's going to be no scenario where they are not going to be given the code for this. Like the whole point is for them to just be exposed to it. And you're the step here. That's a good idea about them documenting what's happening here. Is sort of what they're doing. Is just see, oh, this is what Ruby is. I coded it. Look, I made the computer do this.
And I would specifically phrase that, the way I specifically phrase that is, don't just document what you did to explain it to another student that's going to come along later. Like that's how you want to probably phrase that. So another thing that might be a little less exciting to younger students, but a little more exciting to old ones, might be templating. Some sort of building some sort of very simple templating system, because that's something that adults would have to do a lot more, and that's a lot more tied into real life stuff. Like, take a CSV document or something, and generate a bunch of form emails on that with a consistent header and stuff like that, where you can actually manipulate the header and footer because they actually reside in a separate document. I think something like that could be exciting to adults.
Mad Libs basically is that, right?
Kind of. This is just inverted, right? So Mad Libs, the goal is for fun, whereas the goal is like to help you get work done. So for people that are more oriented toward that, that's going to be a heck of a lot more exciting. Because like, oh crap, I can generate my 50 emails really, really quickly. Maybe I need to learn. I can learn more of this stuff. It's also, I think, a little closer to. That's actually a little closer to Rails as well, because then you're what is it, ERB or whatever the heck you guys call it, your templating language. Eventually that could be your hook into Rails. Is like, okay, let's introduce a templating language rather than the one that we just invented.
That's why the card line game that I coded is okay with the idea that at least they're reading CSV files and then they're turning that CSV file into an object. Reach one, so I'm like, oh, well, at least they're getting the idea.
Well, into an object, I'm thinking like specifically like spitting out .eml files or spitting out a bunch of text files that you could just like paste into a doc, something like that. Yeah.
Right. I think we're on some same page with some of the stuff. Claudio actually joined on this. Does his big brain have any idea?
Yeah, Claudio, what do you think about teaching?
Sorry guys, I was on a phone call, and then time just flies. So I joined in like 5 minutes ago. I'm trying to figure out what you guys are talking about, like putting together some course for something. Yeah,
I'm putting together a Ruby crash course for this group, and it's online content, about 3 hours long. It's really, at the end of it, it's a marketing tool to expose people to Ruby, with the idea that they get to expose a little Ruby, and they go they do immersive courses, and so they would then go, I want to learn Ruby. I'm going to go learn Ruby with these guys because this is where I sort of learn the stuff. They do meetups at their local places, but then afterwards they're like, someone does the meetup, and then they're like, man, this is really awesome. Where can I learn more? And they have to direct them to other sites, and so they rather direct them to their site. And so I'm like, yeah, that's pretty awesome, good idea. And I help them out with other stuff, and so they're like, hey, why don't brainstorm, see what we can come up with some stuff. So I was doing that this weekend, and I thought I would share with some of my results and pick y'all's brains because y'all are all teachers too, and so y'all help teach people. So what has worked for y'all, and what do y'all think about some of the stuff? So that's why we're breaking down to what the components of a good solution would have, and here's the brainstorm of all the stuff we have in there. So you've been teaching stuff for a while. How'd you teach FoxPro, dude?
Well, let me think about it. Yeah, how did I teach FoxPro? Well, I got into FoxPro coming from DBase, right? So I sort of knew the language, or what the language looked like and how to like work with data and stuff like that. And then as you were talking about Ruby, and I caught you guys talking something about Rails. I didn't catch the whole thing, but I just thought myself how I actually learned Ruby, and I was just thinking, I don't think I really learned Ruby properly, right? Because I mean, you helped me getting into Rails, and with Rails it was that thing. You learn Rails, you're not really learning Ruby. You get like just a taste for what it feels like, but we're mostly just learning how to use the framework to build stuff, which I think is great, right? Because you don't really need to learn everything there is to know about the language, and you can still, put stuff together and build software. That's pretty cool. Of course, eventually you end up having to get into the whole meta programming and all that stuff, and then you start digging, okay, how exactly do they get this to work in Rails? I mean, what's the black magic behind this?
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that we can build, quite a bunch of stuff with Rails without really learning a whole lot about Ruby. Sometimes I look at my code and I'm like, there's definitely a better way to write this, but I do not know. I'm probably like still writing some Ruby code thinking C#, maybe, So thinking, going the other way, I think, as far as I'm concerned, it worked well, learning Rails and then getting into learning more about Ruby, because like George said, it's good to actually learn how to build something that's going to be useful for the user, and with Rails, that was my thing. But then thinking the other way around is like, okay, if I were to only learn Ruby, how would I go about, or if I had to teach Ruby, how would I go about that? So still thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very valid point, and I think George was lightly touched on it, and I've had it too, which is like, why, like, maybe just Rails, like, was it make the case of why learning Rails as your first exposure would be bad? If we're already going to have pre-built things, I'm going to say, George, hey, we're already pre-building some complex things. Why couldn't they already have a Rails app and all the CSS all there, and all they do is color by numbers?
I'll make a case for it.
Yeah.
HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and web browsers and web delivery and client-server model. That is all stuff you implicitly have to learn, at least to some degree, when you're doing anything on the web. It is terrifying. It's so much stuff, and that's not even going very deep at all.
Okay.
I'm not sure I 100% agree with the stuff I just said, but that's the reason for it.
So yeah, I'm thinking about teaching. If you're teaching JavaScript in the front end, yeah. See, a lot of times I'm trying to think. I remember I was even talking with
I do not,
like a lot of times, like the crash courses, you're just teaching some web page stuff because that's the biggest bang for your buck.
No. I hate it when people start with that. Yeah, I hate it. I hate that. I think Khan Academy actually does that really right, where their first JavaScript thing, the entire first course on JavaScript, like when they cover all the language features, it does not touch on HTML at all. They have a processing JS environment set up, and you're just drawing lines and circles and stuff like that. I think that's the way to do it. That gets you comfortable with typing out the language without having to worry about angle brackets, without worrying CSS selectors and stuff like that. even after that, when I used to teach this stuff, I would have like courses. I would get give them a hint of like HTML and CSS just with some very quick games, and then actually do what I was talking about, where it'd be Hangman, but using entirely console.log and interacting it with the console to get them used to being in the console and having like DevTools open. Um, and only slowly start introducing HTML and CSS after that. Like I think introducing all of that at the same time, it's nasty. And I mean, like that's how a lot of stuff is taught now, just because there's not a well, like for example with Operation Spark, who I'm doing stuff with now, they're trying to cram a lot of stuff into a very short period of time. But if you don't have to do that, don't do that. Oh my God, don't teach all those things at once.
Yeah, if we did the Rails side, yeah, you'd be have to explain a lot.
What? And I mean, like even without JavaScript, you still have to explain, you know, client server in the web pipeline. That's really complex.
Yeah. I was thinking because we do Rails Girls, I was thinking we'd do that with Rails Girls, but it's longer than 3 hours, and you have an instructor sitting there, and you're still following a path that's laid out for you.
Yeah, well, and I mean, even then, I'm sure barely anyone leaves that course that can actually tell you the difference between HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and what they're used for. Like that stuff doesn't actually make any sense unless you come at it from a historical perspective. Like it makes no freaking sense why those are all different languages and what they do. Like if you come from a historical perspective, sure, okay, then it's like okay, they came around at different times, et cetera, and they're for different points of view. But I mean, you're never gonna. It's gonna be a real struggle uphill to teaching them.
Oh, George is muted now.
Oh, it's still muted.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because it doesn't show him on mute.
Yeah. Oh, he's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm trying to figure, like, it's with Ruby, it's a little bit different with the drawing, like...
All right, well, that was dumb.
Hey.
It muted me and didn't show it.
Right.
But, yeah, what I was saying, like, HTML and CSS, it really only makes sense, like, if you want to teach the distinction, I think you have to teach it from a historical perspective even then, and there's no point in teaching it from a historical perspective until, like, people have gotten a little bit into it, so... Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of starting with all that. I actually think like I'm still a big fan of starting with something like Touch Develop, which is not even going to be used, but which is at least cohesive and designed together and so on.
It's Touch Develop.
Yeah, but I mean that's again that gets into like how much time do you have and who you're targeting.
So what is... I've never seen Touch Develop, I guess.
Oh, let me pull it up, because it's the best. So this... I swear I'd shown this before, maybe not. This is a product out of Microsoft Research that they came out with a while ago. Let's see. Is this on Google? Yeah, sure. So what Touch Develop is... Man, hold on. All right, hold on. Wait, what? Not signed in. Sign in. All right, hold on. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I viewed last year. Okay. So, oh my God, this is just like giving me an infinite loop now. That's fun. Whatever. Doesn't matter. I'll show it as is. So this is Microsoft Research was they started this with the idea of just playing around with what would a programming environment that is optimized for touch look like, um, and they kind of put this together, and it actually ends up being like a really nice environment for teaching programming overall. What it is a programming language, runtime environment, source control, and like social sharing features and tutorial all built into one thing that runs in your web browser and that runs great on your phone and is actually optimized from programming on your phone. So kind of let me show you what it looks like. And it's got like a logo environment built in, of course. So like I don't know, so something like this, right? So this is like logo, right?
Hmm.
If you look at it, whatever. This is actually the tutorial. But so you're doing stuff like this, right? And saying that, and saying okay, turtle, and here you go. You get clear total IntelliSense. So set pen color. Of course, there's a type on there, so you can say random or not random, right? Um, and you get stuff like that. It's really nice how it works. Also, you can actually it'll put together once you have stuff done. You can actually put together a package and deploy it directly to any mobile store, which is crazy. Let's see. Do I even do I even have previous scripts? Like here's one I put together a while ago, where where it's just like these robots flying around, and the large ones eat the smaller ones, right? And then just makes them go a little faster. And if you look at how it's actually structured, so we get that, and you can break it out into multiple functions. And there's actually, and it's actually really interesting what it does. Um, it's not actually text. It's displayed as text, but it's not never stored as text. So when I click in here, you can see kind of it's already tokenized. It's stored as an abstract syntax tree, which means you can't possibly have stuff like spelling errors or anything like that. Like that's not a possible way for anything to go wrong. And it implicitly gives a lot of really nice things. Automatically gives you indentation. You could do stuff like, let's see, um, where are my options on here? So there, you can publish it to the web, obviously, or to anything else. But there's some options in here where you can control how complex the dialect is. Um, man, I haven't been here in like 6 months, and the UI has all changed. Let's see, script to change skill level. Right. So if you want to go to the beginner level, it's just going to change the particular dialect and how it explains the code and like really explicitly show all the scopes of everything, right? And then if you go to coder, it's like this uh, VB style dialect. If you go to expert, it's an almost well, actually that looks exactly the same. It's more of a JS style dialogue from my experience, with less tokens and stuff in there. It's really nice, and it's got a built-in physics system, which is super cool. Um, like in general, like if you're trying to teach someone programming outside of a class or something like that, this is where you start. Like I wish I had this when I was learning. I think this is incredible. The people that are working on this, that were working in this there, I think actually, I don't know if they're working on it still because I see like several of them have gotten poached to work on Roslyn. It's like they just got really cool ideas on language design. So yeah, if I haven't ranted about this before, I should be. It's got built-in tutorials. Of course, something did.
I know I'm weird when it comes to that because I don't get the block programming. Like I know everyone else says it's easy to learn, do stuff like that, and I look at it and I'm like, I know programming, and I find I find it confusing. I'm like, I know what I want to do, and then like all these little boxes and
Yeah.
options, it confuses the crap out of me. Like,
Once you know what to do,
yeah,
that's your problem. And, like you know what to do, but like if you're all right, if you don't know what to do, which is the problem for most people, even ones who've gone through all the programming courses, having something like this just what is the point of this? This isn't actually teaching you anything except for to you get a feel for actually typing stuff out and actually interacting with the IDE and stuff like that because that's something you need, right?
yeah. I guess to me, when I was going through it and stuff, there's like there's so much things jumping out, popping out, going through, and I'm like, I cannot even see what are you doing, like, like, and it's like do this, do this, do this, this, and I'm like, I can click, but it's like everywhere is like things popping up. But hey, if it works and people like it, then hey, I'm not gonna
but when you are programming HTML, CSS, it's still exactly that. It's all that. It's always that. There's always like tons of stuff you don't know what you're doing. Right?
When I'm coding, there's a lot less pop-ups and modals and things going through.
Yeah.
I'm just typing because I think it comes with different approaches of what the languages do and so forth. I'll definitely be able to say like, I guess to me it's always weird because I'm like I view it as a language thing, right? Like. Even when I did the little robot thing when I was learning C++, I didn't get it. Like I was like, how is this teaching me anything about object-oriented programming stuff? I understand because at the time too, I already learned Pascal, so I was just switching over to C++. Because I guess I always still view it to this day that programming is I view it's language. So like when it's blocks and it's moving and clicking, I'm like, you're not.
But this is but it's not like this isn't language. It's just much more explicit about how stuff can be put together, and it's done in a way that you can program on your phone while sitting on the toilet.
Your preferred programming environment.
It's incredible.
That's how you create shitty code, right?
We've learned the truth now.
Now we know.
George ships the code from the toilet.
Yep. Ship.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we are out of time.
All right, thank you for the little the break on the side and some ideas for this crash course stuff. I think we're on the same page with a lot of stuff, and I have some other ideas I want to take a look at. So yeah, I guess we'll see each other next week and share what we've been learning and doing.
Cool.
See you later.
All right. Bye.
All right.